This is a very Trumpian response, I think. If you look into the detail of this interview, we know he doesn't apologise for things when he's caught or a little bit stuck. He simply goes bigger, and that's what he's done, the impeachment comment, the suggestion that America would be worse off. He wouldn't be worse off, but they would miss out on his talents. The flipping, as you say, the plea deal, the idea that flipping should perhaps be illegal. So perhaps speaking to the authorities, telling them what you know is a bad thing. I've got to say, it's all very Trumpian, but what is clear is that he is in trouble. He doesn't do these kinds of interviews unless there is some kind of a crisis going on. But we are in a crisis of that magnitude, I think. The Comey sacking, the Access Hollywood tapes. Let's begin by going back to that interview with Donald Trump on Fox this morning.
I don't know how you can impeach somebody who's done a great job. I'll tell you what, if I ever got impeached, I think the market would crash. I think everybody would be very poor, because without this thinking, you would see numbers that you wouldn't believe in reverse.
The fact that the President of the United States sits in the portico talking impeachment is a sign of how powerful a shock his presidency just suffered. With the conviction of two of his former associates, Paul Manafort, his former campaign chief, and lawyer Michael Cohen, whose courtroom confessions implicate President Trump in a federal crime, some might have expected a defensive Donald Trump. But the bravado never stops. Why, he might even pardon Paul Manafort just to show what a circus justice can be.
Are you considering pardoning Paul Manafort?
I have great respect for what he's done in terms of what he's gone through. And I would say some of the charges they threw against him, every consultant, every lobbyist in Washington probably does.
He used the interview to press home his message that the Mueller investigation has veered wildly off course in its reckless pursuit of him.
What's come out of Manafort? No collusion. What's come out of Michael Cohen? No collusion. They raid his office at 6 o'clock in the morning. And how about with Manafort? They raid his home at like 5 in the morning, I think on a weekend, and his wife is in bed and they go in with guns? Yeah. This isn't Al Capone.
So, despite what Washington commuters were reading this morning, according to the President, the FBI and Department of Justice are out of control and he's innocent of anything. Search any red line carriage on the DC metro system and you'll likely find a constitutional lawyer ready to deliver an opinion and declare the level of legal peril the president now faces. But what happens to Donald Trump next isn't down to the lawyers. When it comes to deciding the fate of President Trump, there are two groups who really matter. One is the congressmen and women on Capitol Hill who have to decide whether they have the political will to act. And the other is, of course, the great American voter. We dug out some archive from 1973 that showed how folks were feeling about maybe impeaching Richard Nixon.
Do you think the president should be impeached?
He isn't above the law. No one should be.
I think it's a fantastic idea. I don't trust the man.
The man doesn't keep his word. He is very involved with himself. I think it's amazing that the country is not already fighting in the streets. He's divided the country that much.
So fast forward 45 years and tourists from all across America are about to begin a sightseeing trip of the Capitol. Do you think the president should be impeached?
No, I don't feel there's enough evidence to warrant that.
He obviously has done some things he should not have done, and he should be held accountable. He's not above the law.
I don't think it would be good for the country if that's what happens, but I think we should follow what our elected representatives want to do. And if that's the way the vote goes, then so be it. So what are those elected representatives thinking? Let's start with Republican Senator John Kennedy on Michael Cohen's credibility.
If the prosecutors told Mr. Cohen to stand on one leg and bark like a dog in the middle of Pennsylvania Avenue, I mean, you know, he would probably do it. That's the way it works when you plead out and you're trying to reduce your sentence.
For us to pass it off as Republicans is, no big deal. It's just not right. This is a big deal, and we ought to treat it seriously.
My Republican colleagues need to end their moral stupor. Otherwise, they're going to be complicit in a constitutional maelstrom.
Thank you, everybody, very much.
Despite the press pool's most vocal attempts, Stoney faced silence all round the president's roundtable today. But they can't hold their breath forever. As the editors of Time illustrated, the president is in deep, and the tide is rising.
Well, earlier I spoke to Sidney Powell in Dallas. She's a former federal prosecutor and a Trump supporter. I started by asking if she thought that Donald Trump was worried about getting impeached.
No, I really don't think he is. The president knows that he enjoys widespread support among the people of this country. We know how much he loves America and how much he is trying to do for the average American that I call the engine of our country that makes everything work.
But of course, all this could change with the midterm elections, couldn't it?
It could, yes. These are going to be the most important midterm elections we've ever had.
And do you think that in an ironic sort of consequence of what happened yesterday, President Trump's base of supporters has actually been energized because this vote now in November will be all about him?
It really will be, and yes, I do think the base is going to be energized because of it. I think they already have been. I mean, what we've witnessed in terms of the intelligence community and the upper echelon of our FBI and Department of Justice literally making up a narrative to try to keep him from being president and then to try to bring about his impeachment or destabilize his presidency has just been extraordinary, and people are furious about it.
And yet there was an awful lot of outrage when Bill Clinton was president and he had his issues with Monica Lewinsky that led to impeachment. And here we have a president in Donald Trump who yesterday admitted on Fox News that he had paid hush money out of his own personal pocket to two former mistresses, one of whom was a former porn star, during an election campaign. Is that okay with you personally?
Well, I don't know the details of his personal relationships with those people. I know that billionaires are often sued or they're easy targets for people who make claims to try to get money. And as I understand it, his attorney at the time settled those claims out of court, and that's perfectly lawful. There was nothing illegal about it whatsoever.
Sorry to interrupt, but is this what it's come down to, that it's now strictly a question of legality, but morality in high office is basically, is no longer a big issue?
Well, these events happened a long time ago. It's not about the way he's conducting himself in office now. The president, I think, has demonstrated exemplary conduct while he's been in office. People grow and people change, and I think the position that he has been elected to and the faith the people have placed in him has simply strengthened him in every way.
Sidney